Hello, I'm Kevin Todeschi, and today I'm substituting for Reflections host Peter Woodbury. Today on Reflections, we're going to have the opportunity to talk to Dr. Shelley Kaehr. Shelley is one of the world's leading authorities on gemstones and energy healing, mind-body healing modalities. She's the author of several books, including Edgar Cayce's Guide to Gemstones, Minerals, Metals, and More, and Edgar Cayce's Sacred Stones. And we're going to be talking to her about her brand new book, Edgar Cayce's Egyptian Energy Healing. Welcome, Shelley, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for having me on the show.
Absolutely. To start, I'd like to hear just a little bit about how you first heard about Edgar Cayce.
Well, interestingly, I had been writing books, and I'm still friends with Dr. Raymond Moody, and I was at an event that he was hosting, and I met some of the people from the Edgar Cayce Foundation who took some of my books back to Virginia Beach, and then they sent me some books. And one of them was a little book called Edgar Cayce on Gems and Stones that was published in the 1960s. And so I had gone out to the Gem and Mineral Show in Tucson, and when I came back, I decided to call my friend A.R.E, who many viewers probably know. She's wonderful. And just say, hey, have you ever thought about updating this material? And apparently the day before I called her, there was a meeting going on up there where everybody was saying, hey, can we please get somebody to update this material? And so I ended up publishing with you all the Edgar Cayce's Guide to Gemstones, Minerals, Metals, and More back in 2005. But the interesting thing is that when I look back at some of the books that I had written earlier, I had written a book called Lifestream Journeys into Past and Future Lives, where I just had little inspirational quotes spread throughout the book. And one of them was from Edgar Cayce. But on a conscious level, I don't even know that I was really fully aware of Edgar Cayce, but on some soul level, obviously I was.
Wow, that's fascinating. That's so synchronistic that you called on the day they're discussing it. That's wonderful. So you've written a number of books on gemstones. What made you decide to write a book on energy healing?
I have written a couple other books on energy healing, but I just don't really feel like people ever really noticed they were there, because the gemstones have always really been one of my main passions in life. And so I think there was a lot more interest in the gemstones at that time. I had been to Egypt back in 2000, and when I came home, I had a near-death experience that's when I first became a healer. And so I wrote a book back in the early 2000s called Galactic Healing about that time period, and turned that into a method. And then I developed another method called holographic mapping, which I had been recently asked to teach that. And so then I had a psychic years ago tell me, you're not done with this healing. You're into the gemstones now, that's fine, but someday you will come back to it. And I was, as I know the Cayce readings are so incredible and rich. I mean, with 14,000 readings, we could all spend our whole lifetime going through this, and we would never see everything that there is there. So I don't even know what I was doing, Kevin, but I was just researching something when I saw this. And I thought, wow, we need to do a book on healing. And I just saw that this could be a modality, and then the rest is history. So it wasn't really that I set out to do it, but it just kind of finds you, which I know you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. And so often you'll be looking at a reading for one thing and you find something else in it, and then you need to set it aside for later on. But they're so rich. You're exactly right. There's so many different kinds of energy healing modalities today. How is Egyptian energy healing different than some of those modalities?
I've been out doing a lot of work, particularly in the last few months since the book came out, with the public doing this modality. The book basically teaches the person how to use the symbols that Cayce mentioned to give themselves a self-activation. But when I've been out in public, people pick up a copy of the book and they can come over, and I will basically give them an attunement into the symbols. And what this does is the set of symbols goes into the energy fields within and around the body. And then at the very end, with the last symbol, it spins the energy fields that are around our body in a counterclockwise direction to be in greater alignment with the earth. And then a white light is established around the person. And the initial process takes about 10 minutes. And what's been so interesting when I'm working with so many people is that I'll be giving them their little energy zap, and then they'll have their eyes closed, they'll be completely relaxed, and then they'll open up their eyes and they'll look at me and they'll go, oh, it's done, isn't it? Because it really doesn't take very long. But I'm really guided that there's something, these symbols are really very multidimensional. They're very advanced, and they're really doing something important to the energy fields around the body. And so the purpose of the book really is that, of course, it'd be great. You can come see, we're going to be having some workshops this fall and beyond, so you can come see me, but you don't have to, because you could just read the book, follow the instructions, give yourself this attunement. And I'm just really guided that it's helping us right now.
You've had so many people experience this kind of attunement. Can you describe how they say they feel differently after they go through the experience?
Yeah, it's different, I think, based on where they're at in their soul journey. I've had people actually tear up a little bit and say they feel more relaxed. Some feel grounded. I've had people say, oh, wow, that pain that was in my leg is gone. So I think it's different for different people. And to the other question, like, how would this differ from Reiki or something? I've taught a lot of Reiki over the years, as I know many of the listeners and viewers are probably attuned into Reiki. So Reiki is, really one of the original, very popular channeled modalities that has a set of symbols for body, mind, and spirit. And so when I was working with this modality, I would like to say that each one of these symbols is specifically aligned to one of the traditional 7 chakras that we've all been reading about in books. But there's new information coming out right now, and I know John Van Auken had written a book about this as well, that the chakras and the energy fields around this earth are changing very rapidly. And so this particular modality, this Egyptian energy healing modality, it operates very differently, and it's going to give every person a little bit of a different experience depending on where they're at. And when they do it a second time, beyond that initial activation, because we're peeling off layers of the onion of the soul and the different blockages that we have in our energetic fields, it tends to perform differently the more times you do it. But the end result is a very deep sense of balance and peace.
With that in mind, do you think that somehow this touches upon karmic memory or some of the baggage the soul carries with it and heals at a deeper level?
Yes, because as you know, that's what Cayce was all about, reminding you of your past lives, telling you to wear gems or do other remedies that were going to help with the actual energetic component of the karma and the things that we're bringing forward from past lives. This will absolutely clear that off and bring the person a greater sense of peace.
Wow. In the book, you mentioned the term tools of energy healing. Can you describe a little bit about what that might be?
Yeah, I couldn't write the book about Cayce without mentioning all of the great things that he talks about regarding energy healing. He talked about pendulums, which are one of my favorite tools to use, which is basically a rock on a rope. That's what I call it. We use it to, you can train your subconscious mind with a pendulum to give you yes or no answers depending on how the pendulum is spinning. So the book gives you a little chart that you can use to practice, and that's always been one of my favorites. Of course, Cayce talked about essential oils, which are very powerful vibrational remedies that when you use those oils, they can shift those frequencies. And just the oil alone can also remove some of these energetic blockages that you were talking about regarding our karma. Sage wands and using smoke is a very ancient method of clearing the energy fields. And then Cayce had a really interesting discussion about breathing, which we all know we need to do more breathing in the society, but he talked about the difference between the nostrils, the left nostril being related to the spiritual aspect of the person, and the right nostril being related to more of the strength, and why these need to be balanced. And so he walks you through basically how to do deep breathing exercises, again, to bring balance, because that's the whole reason why we would do any of these things, is to bring more balance and peace into our lives.
Well, since this is a book that deals with some of the Egyptian lore that Edgar Cayce talked about, you obviously mentioned Raya and some of the healing temples. Some of our listeners may not know who Raya was or anything about the healing temples. Can you talk about both those topics for a minute?
Yes. Edgar Cayce, of course, would go into deep trance, and in the trance, he would not remember what he was talking about, but the source made very clear that he lived a past life in ancient Egypt, and he was the high priest named Raya. And so there's a whole bunch of readings that we go over in the book talking about his exile, into Egypt and how he worked with the leadership there to bring balance and, again, balance and peace to the people. And so they would go through the healing temples and various rituals in the temple, purifying body through proper foods, doing dance, using music and frequencies, again, sound frequencies and vibrations like you talk about in your book, to again bring balance to the body. And you would need to work on yourself first before you would ever think about going out to work on others. And I think that's one of the things I'm trying to convey in the book, is that when you do these processes first on yourself, you work on yourself, and then, yes, then go out and help others. But we have to start with ourselves first.
All right. You're also known for your material on gemstones. How can gemstones be used for energy healing?
Well, of course, they're my favorite tool, and Casey mentioned a lot about those, because when we're trying to shift those frequencies around the body, it can be helpful to introduce a stone or a gem onto the body. Casey was very clear about the fact that a lot of these needed to be worn. The stone actually needed to be laying on the body, and then it would begin to shift the frequencies in and around the physical body so that that healing can occur. And so when you use stones in combination with energy healing, I've always believed that it just helps to I don't want to say escalate, but let's say just speed up the healing and enhance the healing that you're trying to receive with different kinds of energy healing.
And so different kinds of gems and stones might be used for different kind of healing or different kind of problems?
Yes, because they are actually vibrating at different frequencies. So in this book, in the Egyptian energy healing book, I included another section on stones, of course, because I can't help myself. I talked about the ruby, for example. The ruby is actually vibrating at the same frequency as the color red, which is associated to certain musical notes. And red helps people with grounding. It's a very, very powerful healing color. And I was actually really super excited about my book cover. I want to say I love it, and I'm so happy with whoever designed it. She's a genius. And I love the fact that it is red, because it's a very grounding energy, which I feel that the society right now is sorely needing. And so that's one of the stones I talk about. Emerald is another one. It's vibrating at the green ray, very powerful for healing the heart and other physical conditions and things. And Casey talked about all of it.
Absolutely. You just mentioned that you thought this was something that society really needs at this time. Why do you think this information is coming to light right now? What can we learn from it?
I think it has to do with what I was kind of told, Kevin, is that there's some aspect to spinning these fields around the body in this counterclockwise direction, and actually now doing a lot of this work out. I see people just go, oh, they just feel more calm and grounded. And I think we've got an epidemic on our hands that's unfortunately been caused by all the technology. We're not in our body. We're out on our phones. We're out on Netflix or wherever we're at. And I feel like this is one of the reasons why, unfortunately, people are real unhappy right now. And I just don't want to see that. I feel like this is important because it's energetically helping you get back into this material reality and just bring calm and peace so that we can continue into the next, chapter of development. And the other thing, there was a show that I sometimes watch called Destination Unknown that's on Discovery, and they just actually opened up a tomb that was fully intact of an Egyptian high priest. And many of the things they found inside that tomb are exactly the things that Casey was talking about that I mentioned in this book. This must be coming to light at this time for a reason. And when I go out to these shows, I don't want to say I'm shocked, but I mean, there's been a lot of young kids, like in their 20s or even younger. They're real attracted to it. They walk up, they look, and they're learning about Edgar Cayce, which I think is fantastic. And they say they're just really attracted to this idea of this Egyptian energy. So one of the psychics that I speak with at the Dallas Psychic Fair, where I was a couple weeks ago, was saying that maybe these kids, how they have all their hair is colored in those multiple colors and the silvers and all that, and they've got their tattoos and everything, that maybe this is a soul group of reincarnated Egyptians who's coming back into consciousness at this time. But it's always been popular, but it seems like it's just increasing in popularity. And I feel that these things can really help us with some of the problems that we're having in our world so that we can live the lives that we all want to live.
Well, and maybe you've already answered this next question in some of what you just said, but what 2 or 3 takeaways would you like readers to have after reading this book? Well, what would you like them to remember after reading this new book of yours?
I would like anybody who's taken a healing class, all the Reiki masters, or even if you've just had a Reiki healing, I would love it if you would just purchase this book and just try what I'm talking about. You may like it, you may integrate it into your other work, that's great, you may not, but just give it a try and just see if it resonates with you. I think that anyone who is interested in energy healing should at least take a look. And you won't ever see me putting these symbols out on the internet. I do my little YouTube channel and I'll do some demos in there, but I really want people to actually buy the book because it supports the work. And that's the reason why we're here. We want the Edgar Cayce material to go off into future generations and things like that. And so that's why I don't want to put those symbols out. But I've given you basically a whole healing modality, whereas unlike when you took your Reiki classes, you've got to take 3 levels. You need to go out in person and do it. The whole modality is there. And then, of course, if you want to come see me, we could obviously do a class together and we can practice together, which I do think is important that people get together to do this. But just go in there and try it. Buy the book. Give it a shot. And then definitely get in touch with me. I can't wait to hear what people think about it when more people start to try it.
Well, Shelley, it has been such a pleasure talking to you today. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Kevin. It was a joy, and I'm just excited about the work and everything that you all are doing there.
Well, great. And so often you're speaking for us at various conferences. If you'd like to see if Shelley's coming somewhere near you, just go to edgarcayce.org/conferences to see the upcoming schedule. Thanks again, Shelley. Thanks for being here.